Not yet. Mm. Yes, it is recording.
Okay, so then I'm gonna change. Okay, so this in 20 minutes, I will take you through Innovative Entrepreneurship, which is a first-year course in international business management, specialization in international entrepreneurship. The title given to this session is, and you should see it appear, and also the clouds moving in between the skyscrapers, the sustainable entrepreneur, the key to business success. I guess and I hope that quite a few of you are already familiar with the concept of sustainability, that you've heard that in high school or in programs that you've been following, or you've been listening to it on the radio or seen it on TV. So I will start by explaining that actually in the 80s, it was defined by United Nations program, the Brundtland Commission, and they define sustainable development as the development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And actually, Miss Brundtland was the Prime Minister of Norway. She was in charge of the commission. And so the program or the report called Our Common Future was really vital for what was happening afterwards. It was also, I think, the first time in man's history that we realized that with the growing population on this planet, now more than 7.5 billion people, and with a very high consumption system, that we were depleting our resources and that we may even jeopardize our own existence in the future. So this report, 1987, was made from the United Nations to reflect about how we're going to move forward with our civilization and with human beings on this planet. Now, given this is an international business program, we will focus in this lecture and in this course also mainly on business. And what you see a lot is that the triple bottom line is being used in management, where next to profit, and that's something that companies already knew was important for a long time, also before 1987. But they started to add other aspects in business operations, namely also planet. So what is the environmental impact of the company? And also the social impact. The social impact meaning labor conditions, etc. So in the 90s, this concept of the triple bottom line was introduced as a way of looking at companies extending or expanding their responsibilities, not only on profit for shareholders, but also on planet and people. And if you look at what happened over the last couple of years, we've seen that the donut economics was promoted a lot. It's also a lady, Kate Raworth, who wrote a book and who started a whole movement. And on the right side, you see the donut. And I hope some of you already have heard about it. And if not, you learn about it today. You see that what we need on our planet is a social foundation. That's the minimum. We should not be in the middle of the donut because then we are having not enough. So we need to have enough water, food, health, education, income, peace, and justice. We need to be able to move all countries on the donut so that we don't have a shortfall. That's the social foundation. We also have an outer border, an outer layer, which is called ecological ceiling. And at the moment, we are trespassing our ecological ceiling. We're depleting the ozone layer. We're impacting our climate. We are polluting the air. We have a lot of diversity loss. So the situation at the moment with our 7.5 billion people and the way we run our economy is not ideal. It's actually threatening the needs of future generations. So this is a graph. And of course, when we give lectures, we use certainly about economics. We use graphs like this one. I will quickly explain you how it works. There is an axis, or horizontal axis, which is the United Nations Human Development Index, measuring countries' performance regarding life expectancy, literacy, education, and standards of living. On the vertical axis, you have the ecological footprint. I think it's a concept you all know. It's measuring how much impact we have as a human being on our planet. We're entitled to have 1.8 hectares as a person, but at the moment you see a lot of these countries here exceeding the ecological footprint that actually our Earth can carry. Which means if you have, for example, if country uses 8 hectares, if all countries would behave like, for example, the US, we would need 4 planets to be able to provide all that the people need. So they're exceeding. So they're exceeding the capacity of the Earth. The rich countries are quite often here, so they have a high human development index, but they are too high an ecological footprint. And there are unfortunately a lot of countries on this side, meaning too low on development index, so problems with life expectancy and literacy. They might quite often be below the 1.8 limit of our ecological footprint, but they are not high enough on human development. So the goal, the aim is to move towards high development within the Earth limits. And at the moment, not one single country is there. So we need to do a lot of, we need to make a lot of progress in order to get there. So this is on a country level, but if you look then on a company level, because companies do have a lot of impact on well-being and certainly welfare, we've seen that the United Nations developed Sustainable Development Goals with target 2030 on 16 different items. The 17th is partnership. It's about no poverty, good water quality, good air quality. And we see that multinationals are using the guidelines of the United Nations on sustainable development in their strategy, in their policies. And this is the example of Coca-Cola, but you have something similar for Nike. So they're trying to say we're not only making profit, we're not only looking for social and planet implications, but we're actually trying to help the United Nations and countries to move towards sustainability. Now, in our program, we're going to focus on entrepreneurs, not that much on multinationals. And if you look at entrepreneurship, so taking entreprendre, it's a French word, it's undertaking. We will also talk in our course about entrepreneurship, so giving. So I believe that an entrepreneur should not only take, but also give back. And here you see a cloud with words like ecological entrepreneur or social entrepreneur or green entrepreneur. So this brings us already much closer to the program that we're giving at KDG regarding international entrepreneurship. If I was talking about profit, people, and planet, the 3 Ps, then if you look at people, the social implications, you see here, who is it? Steve Jobs, of course, of Apple. You can ask the question, Steve Jobs didn't make your iPad or iPhone, Chinese kids did. So in the 80s and 90s, people started to be aware that companies were exporting their manufacturing to low-income countries, not only to China for manufacturing iPhones, but also for clothing to Bangladesh, for example. And companies were being questioned, like, how are the working conditions of these people overseas? Do you engage kids in manufacturing your products? And you may have heard about sweatshops, very bad conditions, buildings collapsing, people dying. So a company's responsibility is not only for its shareholder, but for all its stakeholders and also the people and the companies they're working with, also their supply chain. So in entrepreneurship, it's also looking at this, namely the social impact of your business. Of course, also the environmental implications of business. And then we had movies like Erin Brockovich with Julia Roberts in the 80s, 90s, saying, due to our company's operations, we are polluting our rivers. On the left, you see this is a river. It's a boat on a river full of plastic. You have smog due to air pollution. You have fish filled also with plastics. You have less birds. You have a climate warming up. You have droughts. You have floodings. So companies may have taken care of welfare advancement, but at the same time, due to their manufacturing and use of raw materials, they also had a quite negative impact. So with KDG, we believe that if we give a program about entrepreneurship, we should, from in the beginning, make people aware, make entrepreneurs aware that they should think about solutions for these issues and for these challenges. We also feel that it's really important to do so because you're part of Generation Z. So you see Greta Thunberg, actually she's now entering university and high school, and a lot of articles, I've taken a recent one in Forbes saying Generation Z, so those born 2002, a bit after the millennium, are emerging as a sustainability generation. And then the pandemic, COVID, didn't start the sustainability revolution, but it has put it into hyperdrive. And Generation Z is in the driver's seat. You're in the driver's seat, and we have to make sure that we offer you enough tools so that you can help us to make that change, that transition. Now, we're not alone thinking that this is important. You're moving, hopefully, to Antwerp, to KDG. Antwerp is in Belgium. Belgium has Brussels as capital, and Brussels is also the capital of the European Union. Now, the European Union made the European Green Deal, which has a lot of impact on business. It's about CO2 emissions, it's about sustainable transport, about moving from farm to fork, so having closer supply chains. And so this is important. So from a political point of view, companies are being triggered, subsidized or taxed to make a shift from a very polluting, socially perhaps not very respectful way of doing business towards a much better form of doing business. So this is the holistic approach. So this is the global approach from the United Nations and a European level, the Green Deal. Okay, this is focused on planet, although leave no one behind is also important within Europe. We should have all people involved and making sure that they have access, so that if we go back to the donut from the beginning of this lecture, you see that social foundation, everybody gets lifted on top the donut, and we're not exceeding our ecological boundaries. Very practical example. There is not far from the university, not far from KDG, the center of Antwerp, you have this beautiful compound with different buildings. It's called Pact, and there you have a local brewer. You have it's very nice to go there also for bars in the evening. But on the rooftops there are green gardens. So they have all kinds of eatable flowers. Which on the right you see the Jane Table, which is a very well-known nice restaurant in Antwerp, quite expensive. Something you can go there, and actually this restaurant uses the eatable vegetables and flowers from the rooftop nearby to make all their cookings. So we see a shift from very global to more local approach of doing business, which I think is needed if we move towards sustainable entrepreneurship. Now, KDG is not on its own. We work very closely together with SYNC. SYNC is an organization of young students that are promoting also business. And for example, you see the setting here. So they organized an event 2 years ago, Students for Innovation and Cooperation, and we worked very closely with them, and also our students went to the sessions. So it's not only studying at KDG and in Antwerp, it's also enjoying what is offered by third parties like SYNC, made of students for students. Maybe interesting for you as well is when you combine when you are studying at KDG and you are starting up, or you already have started up something, you can get additional support. So we have an entrepreneurship center, which gives additional support, additional coaching. Of course, it's not, you need to gain access. You will have to compete. You will have to pitch and your ideas, and then some ideas are selected, and then you get additional coaching and sometimes even funding for your project. So I think this is a good thing to know. Now, to be more concrete, those who follow the whole track, international business management and international entrepreneurship, this is an example of a student. She's still studying at KDG. She already has launched her own website. She's offering all kinds of apparel products, but an eco lifestyle. She's promoting an eco lifestyle, and also the things that she's offering through the website or very much linked to ecological materials and so on and so forth. Another example that I have is Munia Ladip, also a student at KDG, an entrepreneur. She launched a website where you can buy from home interior to gift wrapping to shampoos, all selected based on environmental and social criteria. So that's why it's called Eco Essentials. So that you can kickstart your own sustainable lifestyle. So we really promote not only studying and getting courses from us about marketing and finance and this course, for example, but at the same time, if possible, you're invited to start up something. You don't have to, but at least you're triggered to do so. I have another, so we had two ladies. This is Jasper. Jasper is also a student. In the meantime, he's graduated. He's making beautiful bags made from pineapple leaves, which is ecological friendly, and he's making them in Portugal. Very good working conditions for the people there. So this is another example of a KDG entrepreneur putting into practice what they've been learning in our lectures. I'm almost at the end. I want to show one other example, and it's a bit private or personal because it's my son. But he started a sustainable movie company. He's a movie director. And what they did now is they just promoted a movie, a mini documentary. It's called The 25% Revolution. It's globally promoted at the moment. And the reason that I show it here, because it says that if we need not even 25% of the people shifting to a more sustainable lifestyle, to more sustainable business, to make that transition. And as I explained in the beginning of this lecture, we do have a need. We're trashing our planet, we're increasing inequality, so we need to do something, and business has to take the lead. But if you join our program and afterwards get into the business world and influence the business world to change, together with people already doing it, we may have that enough capacity to make that transition. And that's actually the end of the lecture, so I think I've been probably even shorter than 20 minutes. The question that I would like to give to you to think it over, what impact do you want to have with your studies or maybe with your company? So if you're going to choose now courses, a program, a city, how do you think it will help you to have impact on what you would like to achieve in your life? You cannot get through a single day without having an impact on the world around you. What you do makes a difference, and you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make. And that's said by Jane Goodall. You may know her from the gorillas in Africa. So this is the message in a nutshell. It's a very short overview of what I share with my students during that one period program. There, of course, we go much more in depth, and we make you think about, okay, how can we make our business sustainable? And that's it. So I would like to leave it for that. I'm going to thank you for your attention, and choose wisely. If you want, you can always add me on LinkedIn. I have a LinkedIn profile, like most of the teachers do within KDG. I'm lecturer of innovative entrepreneurship, also building sustainable business. Personal development is also one of the topics that I do. Quite a lot of the teachers you will encounter, you will meet, have a business background like I do, and quite many of them still combine teaching and business, which I believe makes it more interesting for you, because it's not only theory. We come out of the real world, and we still are in the real business world. So that makes it probably much more challenging for you than perhaps in other places on this planet. Voila. I'm gonna stop sharing.
Right. Thank you very much, Eddy. That was a fascinating lecture. I think you really very succinctly and very clearly elaborated on the baseline at KDG. How will you make a difference? It's a question we always ask our students, but also ask one another. And well, basically, you've really grasped that in your lecture. So thank you very much. Just like last night, I'd like to open the floor to questions from the audience. Welcome, Frank, for joining us today. Just to open the discussion, there's a question that I often get, and I know